Smriti Purani Alayam Karunalaya Padpadam Shankaram 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 Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinaamurtaye Namah Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryaptam Vande Paramparam Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we just started verse number 18. In the previous two verses, 16 and 17, the theme was that no amount of activity can help us get rid of this ignorance. Knowledge alone can be the antidote for ignorance. Because karma is not opposed to ajnanam or ignorance. Activity is within the scope of ignorance. Any activity that is done, it is within the scope of ignorance. So knowledge alone can help overcome this ignorance of who I am. In fact, this is true of any ignorance. So if I'm ignorant of any subject, so doing the most difficult activities is not going to help me gain knowledge. So as I said, if I'm ignorant of some language, then know that language. So the same is true of ignorance also. So that's why it was said in verse 17, Jnana vihinaha sarvamatena muktim na bhajati janmashatena. So without knowledge, jnana vihinaha muktim na bhajati janmashatena. So even hundreds of janmas is not going to help me become free. So karma does not help beyond a certain point. Doesn't mean that karma is completely useless. It helps in preparing myself for this knowledge. It helps in preparing the mind to assimilate this knowledge. So that is not in doubt at all. It helps me gain chitta shuddhi or purify myself. But the final step is only knowledge is crossed over only by knowledge, not by karma. So that was the theme in the previous two verses, 16 and 17. 16 talked about very difficult austerities that one performs. Agre vanhihi prishte bham, ratro chubuka samarpita jam. So the most difficult austerities that one can imagine, even they do not help getting rid of ignorance. And ignorance is the fundamental problem. So that is already established. Self-ignorance is the problem. And hence self-knowledge alone can be the solution. And verse number 18. Here in this verse, Kurute Ganga Sagara Gamanam. So Ganga Sagara Gamanam, last class, I explained as taking a dip in the Ganga. But it can have different meanings. So one meaning is Ganga and Sagara Gamanam. See, there are two most holy places, spots in India that one goes and takes a dip. So one is taking a dip in the Ganga, that is considered to be extremely holy. And the other is taking a dip in the Bay of Bengal at Rameshwaram. So that is also considered holy. So that Bay of Bengal is Sagara, it is sea. So even taking a dip in the Ganga and then going to Rameshwaram and taking a dip there. Or Vrata Paripalanam Athava Dhanam. Or taking to very difficult vows, taking to difficult fasts, or giving away your wealth in charity. All these, all these go only to a certain extent and not beyond that. So Ganga Sagara Gamanam has another meaning also. So if you take it together, Ganga Sagar, then Ganga Sagar is a place in West Bengal. So where the Ganga meets the ocean. So taking a dip there is also considered extremely holy. So that is also one of the activities. So the extension is that amount of pilgrimage can help you get rid of ignorance, even to the holiest places. It can help. It can help in Chitta Shuddhi, but not for gaining knowledge. We'll move to the next verse number 18. This is what we started. Suramandiratarumudanivasaha Shayyabhutalamajinam vasaha Sarva parigraha bhogatyagaha Kasya sukhanna karoti viragaha Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. So here he talks about the pleasure in renunciation. So pleasure in vairagya, pleasure in giving up desires. So normally we would tend to think that only satisfying desires is giving me pleasure, is giving me joy. But here the tables are completely turned. So here it is said, who does not enjoy getting rid of attachment? So who does not enjoy renunciation? So the question we get is, how can anyone enjoy renunciation? How can giving up give joy? So here he says, Sura Mandira Tarumula Nivasa. Dwelling in Sura Mandira. So in temples of gods, Tarumula, and underneath trees. Shayya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha. And then sleeping on flat ground without any mattress. So nowadays we have so many different kinds of mattress. So we are spoiled for choice. So, and they're advertised in so many different ways. And we seek the most comfortable mattress for us to sleep. But here, the verse says, who does not feel happy sleeping on hard ground? So, Shayya Bhutalam Ajinam Vasaha Sarva Parigraha Bhoga Tyagaha. Shayya Bhutalam and Ajinam Vasaha. And wrapping deer skin around you. Just deer skin, no designer clothes. So, no comfortable, no soft cloth. So, just wrapping deer skin around you. Why deer? Because deer is supposed to be a very chaste animal. So, it's a pure vegetarian. And at the same time, it seems deer, if you give it something that you have already eaten part of, then the deer will recognize and will not touch it. So my guru, it seems he tried it once. So he was taken to a zoo somewhere. And then there was a deer there. And just to test this, so he just touched a banana with his tongue. So first gave a banana, and then it ate the banana. And then next time he touched the banana with his tongue and then tried to give it to a deer. It seems the deer refused. So it does not eat something which is already defiled by someone else. So that is why deer is considered a very pure animal. And it is a complete vegetarian, obviously. So it is a herbivorous animal. And deer skin is considered to be very, very auspicious. Even for meditation. So Lord Krishna also talks about using deer skin for the seat of meditation in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So that is why deer skin is also wrapped around, not any other skin, not cheetah skin, not any other skin. Sarva parigraha bhoga tyagaha. And giving up all possessions, giving away all possessions, willingly, voluntarily. And bhoga tyagaha. And giving away all possibilities of gaining pleasure, of getting pleasure. Kasya sukham na karoti viragaha. So, who does not enjoy renunciation? Or who does not enjoy being dispassionate or being detached? See, the idea in this verse is that desires are a burden that we are carrying on our head. Even though we may tend to think that satisfying desires, having desires is good, and fulfilling desires is going to make me happy. And having a long list of wants. So if I fulfill this, if I satisfy this, then that is what gives me happiness. It can be in any kind of want. So having a compatible partner, or it may be some luxury, or it may be someone's company, going to some place. So that is what we may assume is going to give us happiness. But here the Shastra says that there is no happiness which is better than renunciation or detachment. So because we don't realize that desires are just a burden we are carrying on our head. So when it is lifted off the head, then there is tremendous relief. So why did I know that? Why didn't I know this earlier? So that's how one feels. So until I'm running around recklessly. So we are reckless with desires. Human beings are reckless with desires. Until I'm running around recklessly without stopping. So at breakneck speed. I don't I don't think that desires are a burden. It doesn't even occur in my mind. But once I step back, so I just force myself to stop and then look at the desires and then try to get them out of my mind. Then it is a huge relief, unimaginable relief that gives tremendous happiness. So that is why in this verse, so he says, Kasya sukham na karoti viragaha. So for whom does not Vairagya give happiness? So this verse is attributed to one of Shankaracharya's disciples called Nityananda. Not the present Nityananda, obviously. So the present Nityananda, less said the better about that Nityananda. So not that Nityananda, but a different Nityananda who lived in the 9th century. So who was Adi Shankaracharya's disciple. So very ironically, so he has composed a verse on Vairagya. So irony is the character of this Nityananda. So the way he decks himself with ornaments and so he dresses like a king. But then this verse says Suramandira Tarumula Nivasaha. So you live in temples without any comfort. Tarumula under the tree. Shayya Bhutalam on flat, hard ground. And this Nityananda, it seems he has bought an island somewhere near South America. And then he's going around declaring that anyone who wants will be given a passport. So who wants to settle there will get a passport. So I don't know which country recognizes that passport, but still whoever wants will get that passport. So he himself is a fugitive. So he's wanted in India. So, but anyway, so this Nityananda ironically has composed a verse on Vairagya. So if many of you know which Nityananda I'm talking about. If any of you don't know, it's okay, don't worry. So it doesn't really matter much. So Sarva Parigraha Bhoga Tyagaha Kasya Sukham Na Karoti Viragaha. So this shows that Vairagya alone can give one the greatest joy. In fact, Shankaracharya also has composed a set of 5 verses. So it's called Kaupina Panchakam. So very beautiful verses where he talks about the glory of just roaming around with a loincloth. So Kaupina means loincloth. So how blessed one is to just roam around with a loincloth. So this cannot be done near the North Pole, obviously. But in India, it can be done because it's a tropical climate. And even some of these Naga Babas, so they roam around like that. And these are Gori Babas. So they roam around without anything on them except the bare minimum. So there he says in the Kaupina Panchakam, so there he says, Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramantaha, Vikshanna Matrena cha Tushtimantaha, Vishokavanta Karunaikavantaha, Karun Karane Charantaha, Kaupinavanta Kalu Bhagyavanta. So always reveling in the knowledge of, in the statements of the Upanishads. Vedanta Vakyeshu Sadaramanta. Bhikshanna Matrena cha Tushtimanta. So just surviving on a begging bowl. This is voluntarily. So begging not out of helplessness, but voluntarily. In India, those people, sannyasis, are supported. They were supported at least, not much anymore. So if any sannyasi goes to anyone's house, then they consider it a privilege and blessing to give food. So two people are entitled to ask for food. So one is a sannyasi and the other is a brahmachari who's studying. So until the person is a brahmachari, the person can rightfully go to anyone's home and then ask for food. Not today's brahmacharis, people who are studying the Vedas in the Gurukulam. So they were entitled to ask. And people considered it their blessing to be able to give them food. In fact, if someone could not offer food, then they would be just distraught. So if they cannot offer food to a brahmachari or a sannyasi. So here he says, Bhikshanna matrena cha tushtimantaha, Vishokavantah karane charantaha. So without any sorrow or unhappiness, because nothing really matters. Vishokavanta karane charantaha. And just walking, wandering without any possession. Kaupinavanta kalu bhagyavanta. So one who is just roaming around in a loincloth is really blessed indeed. So that is the first verse. And then he goes on and on. 5 verses only on the blessing of roaming around in a loincloth. So why I'm saying this is that it is not a difficulty to not be able to fulfill one's desires. So it is not something, it is not a disaster to be not able to fulfill one's desires. So giving up one's desires is the greatest blessing. Because most of the time, that is what troubles us. So I didn't get this, and I'm not able to accomplish this. I'm not able to fulfill this. This is not happening for me. So those are the worries people generally have. Or this is not happening for my son, for my family. So, but here it is completely looked at in the opposite way. So why are you wasting your time on worrying like this? In fact, the greatest blessing is to get rid of desires or not have desires at all. See, that will happen only if one is able to look through desires, which is not very difficult. So if we really analyze, then you find all desires that I have ever fulfilled, they have just disappeared. Nothing sticks with me now. So I have managed to fulfill so many desires in my life. But then they're all gone. And I'm chasing new set of desires now. And even if when I fulfill them, then I will chase another set. So that is an endless journey. And I'm never satisfied with what I get also, completely satisfied. Little satisfaction I may get, but that is very short-lived. So that's why looking through desires and then seeing that fulfilling desires is not giving me what I'm really seeking. What I'm really seeking is permanent joy, but fulfilling desires is not giving me what I seek. Then you willingly, voluntarily, and happily give up desires. Because happiness is not something that is obtained from outside at a given point in time. Happiness is my own swarupa. So Ananda is my own swarupa. That's my nature. In fact, any happiness that I get from fulfilling desires is only a manifestation of this Ananda from within. It seems to come from outside, just like a dog chewing on a bone. There is nothing in the bone, but the dog takes pleasure in chewing the bone. Why? Because the bone cuts the dog's skin inside, and then it tastes its own blood and thinks it is getting blood from the bone. See, that is the proverbial dog's bone. So our desires are also outside. The happiness is from within. But we tend to assume that fulfilling desires is giving me happiness. But while at the same time, in the process of fulfilling that desire, I'm only exhausting myself. I'm only making myself weaker, exhausting and making myself weaker. So that is why fulfilling desires is a meaningless pursuit. So when I really understand this, then giving up desires becomes very easy. It doesn't mean I should voluntarily live like a pauper. That's not what is meant. But live a minimalistic life and slowly develop more contentment, not an indulgent life. So then, Kaupina Panchakam, it also says, Moolam taroho kevalam ashrayantaha, panidvayam bhoktumamatrayantaha, kanthamiva shrimapi kutsayantaha, kaupinavanta khalu bhagyavantaha. So that says, staying at the foot of a tree for shelter. Previously, it was lying down. It is just now, it is sitting under a tree. Vanidvayam bhoktu mamatrayanta. So not even carrying a bowl for getting food, but taking food with your hands and being satisfied with that. Kantamiva shrimapi kutsayantaha. And just dismissing wealth like a worn out garment. Kaupinavanta khalu bhagyavanta. So like that. And then Swananda Bhave Paritushtimanta. Yeah, that's what I was saying. So one who is reveling in one's own nature, Swananda Bhava. So in one's own nature, one revels in. Kopinavanta Kalu Bhagyavanta. And then he says, Sushanta Sarvendriya Vrittimantaha. So restraining one's own sensory cravings. Aharnisham Brahma Sukhe Ramantaha. So day and night you are only reveling on the knowledge of Brahman, knowledge of yourself. Paupinavanta Khalu Bhagyavanta. And then the next verse says, just being a witness to whatever changes your body and mind they are going through. So not being affected by the aging of the body or whatever physical ailments one may have, but just focusing on the absolute. So without caring about what is going on outside. So that person is blessed indeed. So this is Kaupina Panchakam. So the same idea is conveyed here also. So kasya sukham na karoti viragaha. So who does not derive pleasure from being dispassionate or by giving up meaningless desires. So we may want to disagree with it initially because it sounds very incredulous. Because how can you gain joy by giving up desires? By fulfilling desires, all of us know. So here it is said, giving up desires alone gives pleasure. And then next verse. Verse number 19. Yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihinaha yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandadyeva yogarato va bhogarato va sangarato va sangavihinaha yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva bhaja govindam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate. So this verse is attributed to one disciple called Anandagiri. There is another Anandagiri, so who has written a commentary on all the commentaries of Adi Shankara, a sub-commentary. See, Shankaracharya has written commentaries on the 10 Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutra. And Anandagiri, he has explained certain points more elaborately from Shankaracharya's commentary. So it is called a Tika. So he's written Tika for the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. So here, but this Anandagiri is different because that Anandagiri is supposed to have lived at a later time. So this Anandagiri is Shankaracharya's disciple. So he has composed this verse. Yoga ratova, Yoga ratova, Sanga ratova, Sanga vihina. Yasya brahmani ramate chittam nandati nandati nandatyeva. So one who always revels in the knowledge of oneself, in the knowledge of Brahman. So that person is not affected by whatever transactional activity he or she is involved in. So whether one is doing some kind of yoga whether it is Hatha Yoga or some other yoga, Kriya Yoga, something. Or Bhogaratova, whether one is living a luxurious life. Sangaratova, whether one one is seeking enjoyment in companionship. So one is enjoying companionship, not seeking enjoyment. So one is enjoying companionship. Or Sangha Vihina, or one doesn't have a companion. Whether one has a companion or does not have a companion. Yasya Brahmani Ramate Chittam, one who revels in this knowledge. Nandati, Nandati, Nandatyeva. So that person just enjoys all the way, has all the fun. So if we want to put it in American parlance, so has all the fun, has fun all the way. So here it could be slightly confusing because the verse says Bhogaratova. So even when one has a lot of luxuries, so enjoys a lot of luxuries, then it may look like this verse is condoning indulgence. So here it does not mean that one should crave indulgence, but it means that, but this is for a person who does something after gaining this knowledge. Before gaining this knowledge, it is better to give up desires. But after that, because of one's own prarabdha, one's own destiny, there are certain things which one may happen to enjoy. So, like for example, there was a king called Janaka. In fact, the whole of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, most of it is set in his court. So the conversation he has with Yajnavalkya. But they are extremely profound, and it's an Upanishad, and so all the discussions are on self-knowledge. But what kind of life was he leading? He was living the life of a king. So as a king, you can enjoy any luxury that you want. But still his knowledge was, it was believed that his knowledge was not affected in any way. Because he already had the wisdom. And then whatever lifestyle one happens to have, that really does not affect your knowledge in any way, does not damage your knowledge in any way. And again, we need to keep in mind that this license or this allowance is only after gaining the self-knowledge. Someone cannot say before gaining, so let me have all luxuries and still work for self-knowledge. So let me indulge myself as much as possible and still convinced that I'm working for self-knowledge. That doesn't work because the previous verse said, Kasya sukham na karoti viragaha. So there it praised Vairagya before self-knowledge. But after self-knowledge, it becomes irrelevant and immaterial, whatever lifestyle you have. Because before self-knowledge, if I don't have certain things, then I'm inadequate, I'm incomplete, I'm not happy. So I'm a dissatisfied person. But after self-knowledge, Even though the person's destiny may be to have some luxuries, but still the person internally is not bothered whether the luxuries are there or they are not there. If they are there, then it's okay. If they are not there, then it is even better. So the prarabdha gives you certain comforts, certain pleasures. So so this has to be very carefully understood. So this is not giving a license to a very indulgent life or a licentious life, but this is for a person who already has this wisdom. Then whatever I do becomes immaterial. So yoga ratova, bhoga ratova, sanga ratova, sanga vihina. So previously, if I didn't have company, then I'm unhappy. And even if I had company, then I'm unhappy with this company. So I want someone else's company. But after knowledge, whether you have someone near you, uh, no one near you, it is absolutely immaterial. It doesn't really matter. Your mind can just dismiss it. So dismiss that thought. So if it is there, it's fine. If it is not there, there is no problem at all. There is absolutely no problem. So that is the state of mind of a person who has this knowledge. So this also does not mean that I will have a mindset thinking that, okay, I will have self-knowledge, I will get self-knowledge, and then I will enjoy whatever I want to enjoy. So that is also not the right kind of mindset. So if you have self-knowledge, so whatever you have later is irrelevant. So I will get self-knowledge first, and then let prarabdha take its own course. So that is the best attitude. Then let's move to the next verse. Verse number 20. Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita Ganga Jalalavakarnika Pita Sakrudapiyena Murari Samarcha Kriyate Tasya Yamena na Charcha Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita Ganga Jalalavakarnika Pita Sakrudapiyena Murari Samarcha क्रियते तस्य यमेन न चर्चा भज गोविन्दं भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते. So this verse is attributed to, let me look at the name. Dhrida Bhakti, it seems. So name of the student is Dhrida Bhakti. So one who has very firm devotion, Dhrida Bhakti. So that's why he's talking about bhakti. So Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita. So Bhagavad, even if a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita is studied, kinchit adhita. That doesn't mean you should study only little. But this is an exaggeration. So even if a little bit of it is studied, then you feel like wanting more. That's the idea. Little bit is studied, then you want to know more. Little more, little more. If one is really serious. So Bhagavad Gita, Kinchid Adhita, Ganga Jala Lava Kanika Pita. So even if you have just drunk a drop of the water of the Ganga. So Ganga Jala, we take it as prasadam. So Ganga Jala Lava Kanika Pita. Sakritapi Yena Murari Samarcha. If one has even worshipped Murari, so Lord Krishna. So Murari Samarcha. So Murari means the enemy of Mura. So Murari Samarcha. Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. So Lord Yama does not come near this person. So here he is talking about at least showing some interest in getting rid of samsara. So even a little bit of commitment. See, finally, what really keeps you in this pursuit is one's commitment. That is the most difficult thing in the beginning, at least. So to be committed, because there are so many distractions and so many reasons you can give for you to be not able to be committed. So there can be hundreds of reasons. But then to overcome all of that and to be committed to this. So if one does that, that is 50% of the battle is won. Even 75% of the battle is won. So the commitment is really crucial here. So that happens only if you at least have a taste of what it is. So that's why he says, Bhagavad Gita Kinchit Adhita. So even if you study a little bit of the Gita, because we tend to put it off for some other time. When we are young, then we say, all Bhagavad Gita I will study when after retirement. At least after I'm 50. So I don't have time for it now. So let me be at least 50 and then I will think of the Bhagavad Gita. And this person passes away at 49. So what to do? So everyone is not fortunate to live up to 80 years. Really, I know a person who was a very good person. And then he was saying for a long time that after retirement, I will completely devote all my time to spirituality. So then he was having a very good career, very good professional life, and he did very well. And by the time he was 59, he decided that I will retire now, and then retired at 60. So immediately after 60, he wanted to go to a lot of pilgrimages. So he went to a few places and then decided along with his wife that I will go to Kailash. So then went to Kailash. See, Kailash, it's a 3-day parikrama. So for going around the mountain, it takes 3 days. Third day, you complete it. The first day is slightly easier. The second day is most difficult because you ascend a height of almost 1,000 feet. And that too at the level of 20,000 feet. So taking every step is a challenge because the oxygen is very less at that altitude. So, but this person, he went by a yak. So you have yaks there. So you can go on a yak also. So he went by a yak and climbed up, and then you have to come down, go up and come down. So the yak is coming down. And while he was coming down, suddenly he felt uneasy. And then he wanted to get down from the yak and have some water. So somebody gave him water. He just had the water, had a sip of water, and just passed away. So just like that, no trouble, no suffering, just passed away. But this person I know, so he was so sure that I will spend all my time in spirituality after I retire. And probably the second or third, in 3-4 months after he retired, this happened. So what is the point in postponing it? This is what happens to a lot of people. So that's why here he says in this verse, Bhagavad Gita kinchidadhita. So even a little bit of the Bhagavad Gita is studied. Not stop with little bit, but start with little bit. So Ganga Jala Lava Kanika Pita. So little sip of Ganga, water of the Ganga. Sakridapi Yena Murari Samarcha. So spend some time in worship, devotion. Sakritapi means at least once. This is like a verse that is pleading with people to prioritize. So do something, at least little bit you do, then you will know the benefit. So it is like desperately pleading. So a desperate request. Sakritapi yena murari samarcha kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. So then one need not fight with Lord Yama. See, we are always fighting death because none of us wants to die. So however old we are, so we want to somehow by hook or crook survive. So when we want to survive, then we are fighting with death because he is always around the corner, especially in India. So when you take a walk on the road, then coming back alive is a blessing. Because so vehicles miss you by millimeters, by centimeters. And that is the normal here. So even when you're driving, you are inside a car. So it feels like people are always out to damage your car. So that's how it feels. So, but we are protecting ourselves. So we want to No one wants to die, however old the person is. So the person wants to pull on. If uh, if you are reasonably okay, so just a little more time, little more time. Eventually you have to go. Everyone knows, but we try to push it as much as possible. But then here he says that if someone even does all of this a little bit, then one does not fight with Yama because one knows the Atma cannot die. So when I place myself or shift my identification from the body can die, but consciousness cannot die because consciousness was never born. So anything that is born, that can die. Really not the body. I'm temporarily given this body. So for a short duration. And consciousness. So I place myself in that consciousness, which is deathless, which is birthless. So which is eternal. So that's why he says in a slightly different way, Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. So one does not confront Yama, Lord Yama. Because when the time has come, Yama will come and take away your body, life from your body. Let Yama come. So that is why there was one guru, it seems. So he was old, he had a lot of disciples. And then he was not well. So then the disciples were trying their best to uh, cure his illness, some problem. So then he called his disciples and told them, see, there is this one person who has been after me from my birth. But still, I have always been avoiding him, evading him. And now it is the time for me to actually surrender because I cannot evade him anymore. And the name of that person is Yama. So he is there right around the corner. So I don't want to evade him anymore. So let me make peace with him and let me satisfy him. So because I have been disappointing him for so long. So that is what is said here. Kriyate tasya yamena na charcha. So that person does not fight with Yama. So whenever death comes, so happily welcome death. What is the problem? Because your body is only going to die. You are not going to die. The real you is never going to die. That kind of knowledge one gets. So even if one puts in a little amount of effort, so we'll stop here and continue. Om Adaf Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamudaya Purnamevavasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.